Hello, 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 hello. I am back. I am back. I am back. I am back from my summer hiatus, and I am glad to be here. And I'm glad to be here with all of you. And I hope that you are out there. I hope that you got the notice, those of you who are usually here and any new people, but I'm certainly appreciative of the ones who are here. This is your boy Willie Cartwright from Save to Sane. We've been gone for the summer, but I am back, ready to go, fired up for what's going to happen and what we have planned for the future, near and far. Those of you who are out there, please let me know that you are here, that you can hear me, and that you are on here with me live. I certainly appreciate that. That always helps. I hope all of you have had a good summer so far. We're still in summer. I'm one of these people that I like to like my year kind of starts in August. I still do the I still do the spring. I'm sorry, the school schedule type thing. Um, and so I because I've been in school so much. I've been in, outside of K through 12, I've been in four other schools, and so I'm usually on this whole fall schedule. I love the fall. It is one of my favorite times of the year, and so we're happy to be back. And so this sort of is like the beginning of my year for me on that. So those of you, again, if you're with me, please send a message, put something in the chat. Let me know that you are here, and I certainly appreciate that. But as usual, let me start off with by thinking and saying thank you to a couple of people that have made this possible and continue to make this possible. I'd like to say a hi and a shout out to Aisha. Aisha, I hope that you're out there. We haven't spoken in a long time, and I haven't seen you on social media in a while, so I need to check on you, um, uh, Taisha. I need to check on you. Hope all is well with you and the family. But I will be checking on Taisha. But Taisha is instrumental in us getting this channel started, and so we certainly appreciate Taisha Essick out there for the work that she's done to help us. I hope she's doing well. Secondly, my wife Salima, who behind the scenes helped me to set things up and help to come up with some topics from time to time. But I certainly appreciate everything that she's doing and that she has done as well. So we certainly appreciate that. And always thank you to all of you, the loyal listeners who continue to follow me and support me. I certainly appreciate that. Before we get into today's topic, I just kind of want to do on an update on what's been going on with me over the summer. I think I've mentioned to you guys before that this is what I am doing on a full time basis. I'm in this space. I'm in the secular space, doing the work that needs to be done. I recently attended a conference, Secular Student Alliance, which I am a board member of, and we are an organization that supports college and university campus secular organizations. And so I'm on the board for that as part of, and also will be soon be part of their speakers bureau with that. Also recently, just recently, had a fantastic call with someone with the American Humanist Association, and so we're going to be doing some work with them in the near future. Don't really know what that looks like now, but as we get further details, I will let you know what's going on with that. I'm not one of these people. I'm not a superstitious person where I say, well, let me not say nothing until everything happens. It's going to happen, and if it don't, then it'll be something else. But we're supposedly going to be working with them. I have a lot of faith and confidence in that will happen, and just some other stuff. We do have some other stuff that's going on that I will wait to tell you about. But yeah, but I've been very busy during these 3 months, not resting, but I've been extremely busy. A lot of research, studying and not writing, but reading, research, and reaching out to organizations. I've met with people, and we're looking to collaborate and really get this thing going a lot bigger. You hopefully you will be seeing me more in the secular spaces, whether that be at conferences, speaking events, and eventually increase this platform here. And so yeah, so I am in it. So good. That's good news. And as I said before, there would be other things coming down the pike that I would tell you about as well. Maurice Wheatley, what's going on? Glad to have you. I'm good, bro. I'm good. Trust me, I am good, good, good. Before I forget and before I get screamed at by my wife and Taisha, if you're interested, there's a copy of my book. This is what the book looks like. You can pick it up on Amazon. Willie O. Cartwright, From Saved to Sane: My Journey Away from Christianity and Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community. And so I have to make sure I get that in. So with that, um, let's see, what else did I want to yeah, and so before I get into the topic, and today's topic is going to be the dangers of protecting religious expression in the workplace. And this is a topic that I think has a lot of substance to it. What I wanted to do, what I will be doing as we continue with this channel, is try to bring to you more substantive stuff, less on the emotional opinion side, but more on the substantive stuff, the objective stuff, stuff that we can really bite and they can and really chew and affects our daily lives. And so today we're going to talk about some recent policies from the Trump administration regarding protecting religious expression in the workplace and why it may not be what you might think it is. And so we're going to talk about that today because this affects, especially those of you who work for the federal government. Um, and even if you don't, I think that if this is something that takes hold in the federal government, at least for the next 3.5 years, you might see this in local governments if you work as a teacher, or if you work for any local or state government agency, you might see this as well. And then again, these things are slippery slopes. And so if it takes off and it's something that is manageable and works within the federal government and local governments, you may see this as a employee of a private company um, or a public company that is non-governmental and also done for profit. So this can be something that can affect all of us. And so we will talk about that in just a second. But what I wanted to do and what I tend to do oftentimes when I come back from summer is sort of do a recap of who I am, why I'm here, and why this channel is here, and what we hope to add as value to your life by you being a member of this, a subscriber to this channel. And so I'm Willie Cartwright. I am a former Christian. I was a Christian for about 40 years of my life, from the time, obviously, as I was a child until 2015. I was raised in the church in the Deep South. I guess some of you can pick up on the accent. I don't do a really great job of hiding it, but and I'm not necessarily trying to. But I'm from the Deep South. I'm from Alabama. My mother was a minister prior to her death. She became a minister probably about 10 years before she passed away in 2017. But she was always extremely devout. Always had us in church. My sister and I, we did everything. Church service all day on Sundays. Devotion. I mean, not devotion. Revivals in the summer. Tent revivals where we were out in the humidity and the heat in the summer as a child, choir practice, all of it. And so I was raised in a church with a very devout mother. Didn't really come in contact with anybody who wasn't Christian or wasn't Baptist until I got to college. I attended college at Alabama A&M for my undergrad, those of you out there, Alabama A&M. And I met some wonderful people in the late 80s and early 90s. And I met some people from other parts of the country who were not necessarily Baptist, not even, and in some cases, not necessarily Christian. So that was my first exposure to something that wasn't Christian, or someone who wasn't Christian or wasn't Baptist. And oftentimes I joke that unknowingly this was my window to start questioning religion. Ironically, one of the things I did at the time was I thought I would convert to Islam. And my mother and I had this running joke up until she passed that when I came home from college one day and told her that I wanted to convert to Christianity, I mean, convert to Islam, she quickly reminded me that Muslims did not eat pork. And at the time, ham was my favorite food. I have since, for other reasons not related to religion, I don't eat pork. Um, but anyway, so that kind of killed that, right? It kind of quell that. But unbeknownst to me, it was my entryway into questioning my faith. Fast forward through the years, I attended church, and even there were times that I did not go to church, but I always felt guilty when I went to church. I met my wife in 2005. She had been born into the Muslim faith, but had converted to Christianity when she was about 20. And so when we met, I think she was 29 at the time. When we met, she was a very devout Christian as well. Fast forward another few years. As a matter of fact, it was probably exactly 10 years. We met in 2005, and we both were, faithful churchgoers. Paid our tithes, did the whole 9 yards for about 10 years, and then one day, literally one day, while hiking, we both kind of stopped and looked at each other and said, this religion thing doesn't work for us. We thought about it. We decided that we were going our own separate path. My wife has since become enamored with Eastern philosophies, not necessarily the religious part of it, but there's a lot of things in the Eastern philosophies, Eastern faith that she is kind of drawn to. And there's some other stuff. So she's a very deep, very a very well thought person. I mean, deep thinker about everything. We have extremely interesting conversations almost on the daily about belief, about faith, about what else is out there, if anything is out there. And we both have the freedom to explore how we please. There is no judgment or criticism of us toward each other about what we may or may not believe. The one thing that we both agree on is that we do not believe in any current gods or deities that we know of, that we've created, including God, the Abrahamic God, and all of the different names that people have given that entity, and any other gods or deities that we have. And so yeah, so that's and so 2015. My journey was more about leaving organized religion completely alone. But then I found myself really interested in religion, not from the standpoint whether or not God exists or not. Although there was some of that in there as well. That was sort of the early stages. It really became to me about how religion affects us and how religion affects our lives, regardless of what we believe or if we don't believe at all. But I had to go through the stages of sort of being angry at first for a while, briefly, believing that I had been lied to all these years about religion, in particular Christianity, and then getting to the point of, okay, I know this and you don't know this, so I'm not necessarily I'm smarter than you, but let me tell you what I know. And we got through all of that. And then it became a thing. Well, you know what? This is something I'm really interested in. I think something that's really beneficial. It can be beneficial not only to people that look like me, but other people, but specifically for people who look like me. And so now, fast forward a few years, I've since written a book, done a lot of writing research, acquired a master's degree in religious studies, did some teaching on the college level, so forth and so on, spoken at numerous events and conferences and all of that, presented my work and all of that kind of stuff. And so now this is where we are. And so where we are now is an expanded version of where we started. This channel and me, we're really about helping us, first of all, creating a space where people who are starting their journey, have questions about their faith, all the way to those who've completely said, "Let's listen. I'm an atheist. I'm good with it." Creating a space so that we can have and come on and we can communicate, we can talk, we can dialogue, we can be around like-minded people, and we can kind of throw out some issues that we may be having as we try to navigate us, we being non-believers. However, you define yourself in this so-called non category, NONES, the category of nuns, which I've written about in my college, my graduate thesis was about nuns. So whether you are a person who says, I haven't been in church and I don't know when, I'm done with the church, and I may have some questions about my faith overall. Again, all the way to the other spectrum, the other end of the spectrum, with people saying that I am an atheist, and so everything in between. So first, we want to create that safe space for people to come on and have dialogue, and understand that there are other people who think like you, who feel like you, who are going through what you're going through. And those individuals, there, some of those individuals look like you. That there are more people out there that look like you, who think like you, than you know of, because for a variety of reasons, many of us remain closeted. Um, and so those reasons would be anything from, I don't want to risk damaging or severing my relationship with those who I love. I don't want to risk losing my job because everyone that I work with, even my bosses, are extremely devout. And depending on what part of the country you live in, that would be more of an issue. If you live in the deep south or the Midwest, that would probably be more of an issue than if you lived out west or in the Northeast. I'm telling you that from personal experience. I lived in the deep south for so long. I now live outside of Vegas. And trust me when I tell you, it is completely different. It is completely different. So yeah, so we have that space, but also we want to do the work. We want to help us to navigate through this. Right now, what we're seeing is an attempt at creating at least a soft theocracy, but helping non-believers navigate through this system. And so eventually, what I look to do and what I will continue to do as my work would be to help to maybe create policy that is not based on religious dogma or doctrine. I certainly believe in the separation of church and state. Um, if it was a perfect world for me, I think that we would be better off without religion. But from a realistic standpoint, at least in my lifetime, that is something I don't believe will happen. And so the next best thing for us to do is learn how to coexist with believers. And I think it's upon believers for a number of reasons. Number one, because they are the majority, but number two, they are the reason that we're in the position that we're in. They need to understand that it is all right for you to worship as you choose to worship, but don't force me to worship the way that you're worshiping. Don't force me to follow laws and norms that have been established because of your religious interpretation or your religious dogma or doctrine. And that's the work that we're doing now. I've done some work and some presentations regarding the dangers of Christian nationalism and Christian nationalists. And so, as you can see right now in the current administration, some of you may know this, but many of the architects behind, say, Project 2025 and some of the other policies that this administration is pushing, many of those individuals are Christian nationalists. They are a part of Christian nationalist organizations, the Heritage Foundation, people like Stephen Miller, and so I am adamant about the work that I'm doing and the collaboration that I'm doing with some of these organizations, because we are indeed trying to fight what we know is coming down the line. Um, and so that's really what we are, where we are. That's what this channel is about. I want us as African Americans to have a larger voice in this secular space. There are people out there that look like us that's doing the work. I almost know almost all of them, or have met them or followed them. Everybody from Christopher Cameron to Candace Gorman, Shakiva Hutchinson, Dr. Anthony Penn. And then those are sort of the people who, from an academic standpoint, and this is the people in academia, and there's clearly some more. Um, uh, um, uh, God, it's slipping my mind. Jeremiah Camaro comes to mind as another person in this space. But what I am seeing a lot of now, and I'll end with this, and I'll get to the topic, but I think this is important. What I am seeing now in this space is there are a lot of people, and particularly younger people, who are utilizing social media, in particular TikTok, to get the message out about their secularism, and they look like us, and I am excited. I don't do as much work on TikTok as I need to be, and I'm going to start doing more. But every time I get on TikTok, I see more and more new young faces African American faces that are challenging this indoctrination that we've been under for so long. They're challenging the notion of this God or this deity, and I love seeing it. And so there are more and more of those individuals coming out, and so I want to say kudos to all of you as well with that. Henry, what's going on? Henry Mars, I'm glad to have you. Those of you who have not followed me before, have not been on live with me, I will do this. I will always shout out someone who comes on and speaks and say, hey, even in the middle of whatever I'm saying. That's just how I am. And so yeah, so we're good with that. So today's topic. Here it says, chap, be good, Arch Thinker. There you go. Appreciate it. Today's topic, the dangers of protecting religious expression in the workplace. And so I always begin by telling you where this came from or where I got this idea for the topic. I here in Vegas, I attend this organization meetings that we call Sunday assemblies. And some of you may be familiar, have heard of them, but what they are, for lack of a better description, it's maybe like church in a sense for secular people or non-believers. And there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's no, it depends on where you go, but there's really no singing in this organization like requires all of that. We just kind of come together on Sundays and we see a presentation or we'll talk about a topic, or we may have a presenter that comes or whatever. And I've presented to this organization as well. But it's just a space for us to get together. It's usually the first Sunday of the month. We sort of get together and we sort of hash out, we sort of talk about these ideas of stuff that's going on. And so it's a really, really good organization. You learn a whole lot. But at the most recent meeting, we talked about the pending. Well, I won't say it's legislation, but it is memorandum that's going throughout the federal government in Trump's administration. And it went to the heads and acting heads of the department and agencies within the federal government. And it's entitled, and this went out July 28th, 2025, and it's entitled Protecting Religious Expression in the Federal Workplace. Let me see what's going on with Henry. Henry said, look up those two. Hopefully you can collaborate with some of those. Yeah, I got to, at least if you're talking about Camaro, I have met with him and talked with him, but it's been a while. I need to touch bases with him again. It'd be great to have him on. You say Durante Lamar is another YouTuber. Okay, you talking about the YouTubers? Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to a couple, but it's been a while. A couple of people have invited me on their shows or whatever, and so I would be doing more of that. While I'm talking about that, one of the things that I would love to see us do, I recently said Brady Goodwin. Yeah, one of the things that I would love to see us do as a community, because another organization that I'm a part of is I'm on the board of directors for Secular Student Allowance and one alliance, and one of the other board members is a huge YouTuber. I mean, hundreds of thousands of followers, and he talked about that community, and he's in the secular space as well. And these are the people like Amin Ra and what's the gentleman's name who was pissing everybody off? It's on the tip of my tongue because I listen to him all the time. He was on the Atheist Experience. Those of you who are on YouTube and listen to that. But it's people like that. And I'm going to my YouTube now because he probably pop right up on mine. But anyway, oh, that's me. Hey, I came up first on YouTube, so that's a good thing. Good deal. But yeah, but so they clearly yeah, Matt Dillahunty, absolutely. Appreciate it, Henry. I was thinking about Matt Dillahunty. So it's those people in the world, they have huge followings, and I understand that because there are more secular non-African Americans out there. There are more who are unashamed and unbashful, not abashed about their disbelief. And so that's a larger community. But I think that there are more of us out there. Well, as a matter of fact, I know that there's more of us out there that look like us than that. And so I think what I would like to see at some point is a lot of us coming together, like what we see with them on that side of it. And so yeah, and so I've been talking to some people about how we can do that. But absolutely, you said Justin from Destruction Zone is another one. I was just about to mention Justin. Okay, cool, appreciate it. Yeah, I need this. I need to save this so I can reach out to these people. But anyway, so yeah, so back to the topic. So why is this important? Because whenever this stuff happens, um, these things come down, we kind of it kind of go over our head, or we kind of miss it, and it kind of slides by. But those of you who, especially those of you who are working in the federal government, and as I said earlier, not only federal government, but local governments, and this is a slippery slope. Federal governments, local governments, and then I see this if it goes well with the federal government and local governments, I can see this in private and public sector jobs, non-governmental jobs, where most of us work. Right? Well, I'm retired, semi-retired, but we used to work. But anyway, I just want to let you guys know what's going on. Again, especially for those of you who work for the federal government, this is supposedly happening right now, and so it is entitled "Protecting Religious Expression in the Federal Workplace." And I'm going to skip the background on purpose because that's kind of just reciting what's in the Constitution or whatever. But this memorandum provides guidance to agencies on robustly protecting and enforcing each federal employee's right to engage in religious expression in the federal workplace. Consistent with the U.S. Constitution, Title VII, the other applicable sources of law, it should be read in conjunction with OPM's reasonable accommodations for religious purpose. Memo issued on July the 16th, 2025. Agencies should allow personal religious expression by federal employees to the greatest extent possible, unless such expressions would impose an undue hardship on business operations. And they should review and, if necessary, revise their internal policies to ensure they appropriately protect religious expression. And I'm going to read just another part of it. In section 2, religious expression in the federal workplace. Federal employees enjoy broad religious expression rights in the workplace. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination in employment because of an individual's religion, among other protected characteristics. Title VII does not demand mere neutrality with regards to religious practices. They be treated no worse than other practices. Instead, it gives them favorable treatment, and this is added in, and that is debatable at best. Obligating agencies not to discipline or discharge employees for their religious observance and practice. This is necessary to ensure religious persons' full participation in the workforce. Accordingly, Title VII requires employers to reasonably accommodate an employee's religious observance, practice, and beliefs, unless doing so would cause an undue hardship on the conduct of the employer's business. Further, a worker's dislike of religious practices and expressions in the workplace, it is not it is not cognizable to factor into the undue hardship inquiry. And so on the surface, many people would say, well, either A, that's been kind of going on anyway. Those of you who've worked in Cubicle Nation or in the cubicle, whether it's the federal government or even public private businesses, non-government entities, you may be sitting next to an individual who has a cross and listen to gospel music on a desk and has pictures of Jesus and will consistently talk about her faith, his or her faith at the job. And we've all kind of been there and seen that if we worked outside of our home. But this goes further. And so one of the things that I argued about this on Sunday was that, like, this is the soft sell. This is how you get many of our people who ordinarily, if they really understood this, would not be going for this, regardless of whether or not they're religious, because there are many religious organizations, religious people who understand that this is a threat and understand why this is a slippery slope and why this is a completely horrible idea. And so there's literally religious organizations that are working to fight against this as well. And I'm doing some collaborative work with one of those organizations right now as we speak. But let me just get into some categories and some things that sort of drill down just a little bit more. So it says categories of employee conduct which should not result in disciplinary or corrective actions include but are not limited to: number one, um, display and use of items used for religious purposes or religious icons, meaning that employees can bring anything they want that's part of their religion to the job, and if it bothers you, then so be it. There's nothing that you can do about it. And so I want to, each one of these, there's an example. Um, let's see. Okay, displays and use of items used in a religious purpose or religious icons. So here's some examples. An employee may keep a Bible on her desk and may read it during breaks. Similarly, an employee may keep rosary beads or tefillin on her desk. During breaks, she may use such items to pray. An agency may restrict all posters, but an agency may not single out religious posters, such as those of the crucifix, Bible verses, or Star of David for harsher treatment. And then finally, an employee may wear a cross as well as clothing displayed in religious message. So far, most people say, "Well, that's not too bad." But what we understand with this is that the reason why there's a separation of church and state is because the founding fathers, who by all means were absolutely not perfect, but they knew and they understood that this would create uh, a dominant religious culture in the workplace, that one religion would be favored over the other. And we know, given this administration, that religion that is going to be most favorable or most favorite, or favored the most, is going to be Christianity. And not just Christianity, but their version of what is Christianity. And so now you begin the slippery slope. And we'll get to possible solutions as we get to the end. But I want to go through these. The second one is expression by groups of federal employees. Examples: expressions by groups of federal employees. A group of employees may form a prayer group and gather for prayer, a study of scripture or holy books at the office while not on duty hours. So their lunch break, their 15-minute break before or after work, that can be a full blown out prayer meeting at the job. And then secondly, an employee who requests his supervisor prohibit his co-workers from gathering in the empty conference room for prayer should politely be told his co-workers conduct will be allowed to continue as it is permissible. So we see that. The third one: conversations between federal employees. Conversations between federal employees. During a break, an employee may engage another in polite discussion of why his faith is correct and why the non-adherent should rethink his religious beliefs. However, if the non-adherent requests such attempts be stopped, the employee should they don't have to, but they should honor the request. So people would be free to proselytize to you on the job nonstop. And if you say that I am not open to that, that's not who I am, I don't want to hear that, there is no guarantees that they have to stop that. There would not be any HR consequences to that. You would just have to sit there and endure that as much as they feel is necessary. And trust me, some of you may know this as well, but I know people who are really radical about their proselytizing. I know people who literally every other word out of their mouth is Jesus, God, look how wonderful and great you are to me. And so that's something that I think that we should be aware of if we're in those environments. Um, the next one: expression among or directed at members of the public. Examples of that, a couple of examples of that. A park ranger leading a tour through a national park may join her tour group in prayer. Let's say that you're a part of this group, because my wife and I, we go hiking quite often, and we've hiked with groups. Just the thought of hiking out in the desert, well, because we're here in outside of Vegas, hiking in the desert, and the collective group stops and starts to pray. Right, that's something that my wife and I would not be open to at all. But this can happen, and then there's no recourse for you as the person who's not wanting to be a part of this. And the second, a doctor at a Veteran Affairs VA hospital may pray over his patient for her recovery. And I think that is a personal thing. If they want to do that, I'm fine with that. But that's just part of it. And then finally, the last directive in this is expression in areas accessible to the public. An example of that would be expressions in areas accessible to the public. A security guard stationed at the front desk of a federal office building may display and use a crucifix, Bible, or use rosary beads. A receptionist in a doctor's office at a VA medical center may pray with a coworker in the patient's waiting room. All right. And so here's a couple of things that if you didn't pick up on that I noticed in this. All of the examples were centered around the Abrahamic faith, right? Christianity, as a matter of fact, Islam wasn't even mentioned, but Christianity and Judaism mostly were used for the examples. So that in itself tells you the direction that they're trying to go in with these policies. I'm telling you right now, you're going to see Christianity and Judaism as the favored religion. There is going to be pushback when someone say the Wiccan faith or Hindu or Islam or any other faith want the same favoritism and the same rights that Christians and Jews have in the place. That's where you're going to see the pushback. And so now that leads me to what can we do about it? And I said this the other day in the presentation. One way that we see this going is that absolutely when a Wiccan or a person, a Satanist, Muslim, Hindu person comes to the job and wants to do the exact same thing that Christians and Jews are doing, that's when you will see the pushback, and that's when you may see people saying, "Wait a minute, maybe this wasn't a great idea." And there will certainly be lawsuits if those individuals are denied the same rights that Christians and Jews have and enjoy on the workplace. Henry had a comment. Doctors are now allowed to refuse care to those whose lifestyle they disagree with. Doctors refusing the birth of a single woman. I saw that, Henry. I saw that. And so this is an even more dangerous slippery slope because federal government is one thing, and there's a number of individuals who work for the federal government that this would apply to. But as we continue creating this soft theocracy in this country, it expands out to the general public. And so you do see things like a doctor being able to say, I don't want to work, or I don't want to be a physician or perform these duties on this single mother, right? That's the most nefarious and dangerous part of all of this. And again, the slippery slope is coming. So now you have extreme, or you will have extreme right-wing Christian fundamentalists defining what is their Christian culture. And based on that definition, that would be, very small in nature. If you're outside of that box, if you're outside of how they define their Christian culture, then you're going to be suppressed. You're not going to enjoy the same rights, and as this situation attests to, you're not going to be afforded the same privileges and rights that they may have, right? My wife is a nurse, and I know several doctors, and there's the oath that they take to work on everybody, regardless of whatever. This goes exactly against that. And so you're going to have people. And so as this spreads out, into the general public, non-governmental employment, I can see this going all kind of ways. One example that we talked about when we did this presentation, another gentleman brought up. Uh, he worked for UPS, and he said that he can see his boss saying to him, talking about religion. And if the boss detected or you alluded to the fact that you were not religious or you were not a Christian, and that this is something that you didn't want to be a part of, he could see the boss um, penalizing you. It can become punitive that you're not part of the culture, right? And the culture, again, can be loosely defined to mean we want a homogeneous um, uh, environment, meaning we want everybody to be alike. We want everybody to be part of this Euro Christian culture, which sets up an hierarchy, meaning that heterosexual white men at the top and then everybody else. But they also would like to see, or what I can see this happening. You should be part of a um, man-woman marriage uh, and kids. That fits into their box. So if you're anything other than that, I even made the reference to, I can see an environment where you would be ostracized because you have tattoos. In the Old Testament is against tattoos, certain piercings, all of that, because you're not part of the so-called Christian culture. And so this is extremely dangerous. Um, and we know that this is not about religious freedom for all religious and for all people who practice their religion. This is really about pushing and supporting and uh, pedestaling, putting Christianity and Judaism on a higher pedestal. And then, in a sense, making all of us, the rest of us, uh, adhere to that culture. And then again, they go in and they, from a more tight perspective, they define what that Christian culture is. And so it becomes really a parallel with white supremacy, because that's all Christian nationalism is. And so when you do your research or you want more information on this, begin with understanding what Christian nationalism is, who Christian nationalists are, and how many of those Christian nationalists are part of this current administration. How many Christian nationalist organizations were part of the architect behind Project 2025, and many of the policies that we've seen from this administration. And so, yeah, and so we are very concerned. When I say we in this space, those of us who speak in this space, those of us who work in this space, we see this. I am encouraged, however, that there are religious organizations who see the threat and they understand how dangerous this can be. And so they are willing to work with those individuals, even those individuals like me who are not part of the religious community, to get the word out regarding the dangers of it, um, of this. And so, again, I want to express, and if you guys are in the workspace and you see some of this, it is vitally important that you speak up. Um, I remember being in corporate in the late '90s and the early 2000s, and it would be nothing, especially living in the South. It would be nothing to see someone come in with their Bible or have the Bible on their desk or listening to gospel music. And honestly, I was part of the faith at that time, so it really didn't bother me to that extent. Um, and as I've often said, and I will continue to say, I have no problem with personal worship. I have no problem with personal relationship, well, a person having a personal relationship with whatever he or she deems to be their God or their deity. But it crosses the line when it affects my life. And what we're seeing here with with this proposition is going to affect all of our lives. Um, One of the things that we talk about in this space oftentimes is the othering. And so the othering, it can be from a ethnicity standpoint, a gender standpoint, a religious standpoint. But all the othering, when we talk about othering, a majority or a dominant community decides on who fits that community. And if you don't fit that community, you become other. And so once you become other, what you see is propaganda against other to make those within the community, the accepted community, palatable or acceptable of the treatment of others. This goes all the way back to slavery. uh, Europeans were able to uh, dehumanize enslaved Africans and other them. Not only did they do it from that standpoint, they also did it from a religious standpoint. If you understand the history of our enslaved ancestors from Africa, the Europeans were successful in stripping them of their spiritual practices because they considered that Christianity to be the religion and everything else was viewed as uncivilized. And so you didn't fit as a Christian, so you were othered. Even when the slave owners decided to allow enslaved Africans to partake in the religion of Christianity, um, they still view them as being subhuman. And so, again, the treatment that they went through and that they tolerated and that they dealt with and that they experienced was made acceptable to those in the in group, other Europeans, because they viewed the enslaved Africans as less than human, as othering. This country did the same thing with people of Asian descent, Japanese and Chinese people. There's a history of that, the othering. Certainly, Native Americans were the first to be othered by Europeans, the settlers. And so we see that. And so now today, what we see is the othering of those in the LGBT community, um, Hispanics, and still us. And so now this net is spreading, and so now they're using religion or attempting to use religion to do the othering, because what they want is all of us to be assimilated into a society. I remember as a kid growing up, and many of you may remember this. They talked about this country being a melting pot. And so that was one of the part of the propaganda, things that were fed to us, and we all bought into it. Yeah, let's be part of the melting pot, which means basically you put a bunch of different things in, and it's all melted down, and it all kind of becomes the same. It all sort of looks the same, acts the same. It's only been in recent years where people say, wait a minute, that's not really what we want or what we wanted. What we really want is a salad bowl. And I make this analogy all the time. With a salad bowl, if you look at a salad bowl that's really done nicely, you can see the lettuce, you can see the tomatoes, you can see the cheese, you can see the croutons. I like olives. You can see the olives. You can see each and every separate piece in the salad, and it's not grinded together to make it one, but it comes together to form a community, but still maintain its individuality within the community. And that's what a salad is, and that's what we should be as a country. Yes, we are a country, but I should still be able to retain my individuality, whether that's my culture, and within that culture, whether it's that how I practice religion or don't or choose not to practice religion, that is my ethnicity. My nationality, where I came from, where my people came from, part of those culture, that culture that I bring over or I learned while I'm here, as I'm here. We should all be free to have that individuality. But what we're seeing now with this administration is an attempt to have all of us assimilate into what they believe is the acceptable culture, and that culture is Eurocentric, white, uh, Christian culture. And then even within that, it goes a little deeper than that. And so we have to be careful of that. And so these are some of the steps, some of the things that are being done, that we need to be aware of. And again, the reason why this is important is because this is happening to federal employees. Um, African Americans are a disproportionate number of federal employees. However, many of them are Christian and believers. And so my fear is that they will read this and say, okay, I have no problem with this. I want to bring my Bible to work. I want to be able to proselytize to people who are not saved. I want to be able to gather on my lunch break and have prayer meeting, so forth and so on. But what they're not able to do is see the long-term effects of that. You're going to have an employee that you are very fond of who may be Muslim or who may be Hindu or who may be secular or may be atheist. And now this person's right are going to be trampled because they're not part of the acceptable one. And don't think just because you are a Christian that you automatically, what if you are a Christian who is a single mom or a Christian with a tattoo or a Christian who mixes some African spirituality with that? How long before you are not accepted, right? And so how long before this gets outside of the federal government and into the non-governmental places of business? And so all this is happening. And then as Henry, the last point that Henry brought up, this is going to spread to practitioners and to people who we do business with, who everyone does business with. And if you have the right to deny someone because and listen, the Bible and the interpretation of Scripture is extremely broad. It is ambiguous and it's extremely broad. And so I can see very broad and ambiguous defining of what is part of my Christian culture. And you get stuff like a doctor saying, I don't have to see this patient or work on this person or save this person's life because they are a single mother, or they have tattoos, or they've read the Quran and they're not reading the Bible or whatever it is. We can see it. We already see that, and we have already seen that in the LGBT community with the whole kink debacle. One of the things that this came out of, and that we saw a video on, I don't know how many of you remember this, but back in Kentucky, I don't know, it wasn't even 10 years ago, but the county clerk in Kentucky who refused to give a wedding license to two guys because they were, two people of the same sex men were wanting to get married. And she personally refused to give them a marriage license. She had that much power. One person, a city clerk, had that much power to not allow these two individuals who love each other from getting married. To the point where she refused to give marriage license to anyone for a while. Long story short, she was sued. They ended up winning, and some other stuff happened. And so the city decided that in order to appease her and not have to skirt the law, they decided to take her name off of whatever it was, the marriage certificate, and she sort of agreed to that. But the fact that one person in a city can hold that much power because of her, again, this goes beyond your personal religious beliefs. Now, these two people who want to get married are suffering. They were Christians. But because of her interpretation of a selected, cherry-picked scripture, she's stopping them from the privilege and the right that the rest of us have. And so those are the things that we have to be careful about. And those are the things that this administration and this current justice system in the way that it's made up will certainly have and will continue to support nonsense like that. And so we have to do everything that we can to fight those things. And so as I close out, are there any other comments? Are there any other questions that anyone want to ask? I again, as I mentioned at the top, I want to be able to bring more stuff to you that is substantive, more stuff to you that affects your day to day, so we can have broad and robust discussions and dialogues on these topics. I wanted to be more than just my opinion about certain things, my subjective opinion or my personal lived experience, but I want to bring you some stuff. And so this was the first thing in it that we wanted to do. We wanted to bring you these proposals that's part of the federal government right now to make you aware, because this is also about informing you. For those of you who did not know that, was not aware of this, let me just give you the information again so you can look it up. It is a memorandum that came out of the federal government, to heads and acting heads of departments and agencies from Scott Kupar, Kupor, Director of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, July 28th, 2025, and regarding protecting religious expression in the federal government. And so you can look that up. Um, you can get the information. Those of you who may work for the federal government and understand that this may be a threat or something that you feel really strongly about, the separation of church and state. Those of you who may work for local governments, whether you're a school teacher, police officer, you work in the county, you work for the state, I can see this spreading, this type of thing spreading, especially those of you who are in southern states and in the Midwest. I can see this spreading, so you may want to make yourself aware of that and come up with ways to maybe fight this, or at least be aware of it, that there's a possibility that it comes down. And then finally, those of you who are in non-government entities, private and public companies that are non-governmental, I can also see this happening as well. Companies like, Chick-fil-A, Hobby Lobby, some of these other companies where their CEO, their C-suite people or founders are devoutly religious. I can see this happening as well. Or even with maybe a company that may not be, the owners may not be as devoutly religious, but you have a large and powerful and vocal segment of the workforce for these companies that would love to see something like this enacted in a company, or at least have the freedom, more of the freedom to do these things. Because I believe that in most of these non-governmental companies, we see a lot of this anyway, or at least that was my experience when I lastly worked in corporate, which was 2009. So we're talking what? Long time ago, 16 years ago or so. Yeah, it's the last time I worked in corporate. But yeah, and so just want you guys to be aware of that. Thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. I will see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy yourself and stay safe. I'm going to try to reach out to some of these uh, TikTokers and YouTubers and see if we can kind of do some collaborations, because I love what I'm seeing with these younger people who, unlike me when I was their age, they have the guts and the audacity and the bravery to question religion. And so I love it. I love it. I love it. And so we will try to get with some of those people. But until then, I will see you in 2 weeks. Again, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your week.